Alrighty. Make sure I don't drop that. I don't think this sun likes me very much. Every time I get to talking, it be overcast, and all of a sudden, boom, hits me right in my face. But that's okay, because I can work through that. Gets too bright, I just change, because I can adapt. Anyway, this is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. I had to come in and chime before tonight's festivities take place. I almost got a full slate of NBA games. We only have, on average, about 3 more games for each team as the regular season comes to a close on Sunday, with that little play-in tournament beginning next week. Having said that, with 3 games, well, I'll get into that a little after this. But first, let's talk about Luka Doncic. He's going back to Dallas tonight to take on his former team, the Mavericks. And this is not the first time they played. The first time they played, everybody was all excited about how Doncic was going to go and break the clock on the Mavericks and do this and do that. But I had a different take. I think that the guy was going to try, hey, Usman, how you doing, man? I had a different take on that. I thought that he was going to go and try to press too much. And if he got anything, he was going to get about 25 points. I said that to Michael Irvin on his show, and he saw it, and he responded back. He told me to get for real. Matter of fact, he said, sports for real, get for real. That was actually a pretty good comeback. But the thing is, I turned out with the last laugh because even I was wrong. I thought he would get 25. Michael said he would get 40 plus. All he ended up with that night was 19. He wasn't in the best shape. And because he wasn't in the best shape, that adrenaline is going to kick in, and he's going to try to do too much, and it was going to backfire against him, and that's exactly what happened. But I also told Michael, I said that when he returns to Dallas, that's when he was going to go off on the Mavericks. And here we are tonight. In about 10, 15 minutes, they are set to tip it off. But what's strange about the thing is that the Mavericks, even though Doncic can't return, they can't send Davis back to the Lakers, they're having this big tribute tonight where they're going to thank Doncic for being a Maverick and all the stuff he's done for the organization, blah, blah, blah. And to top it all off, they printed these shirts out in a foreign language that says thank you for what he's done. Now, the flip side of that, the Mavericks trying to put a spin on the situation, they have come up with a way to try to make some money off the situation. And they tried to do that by working with the sponsors of Doncic and try to get him to come on board so the organization can make even more money through a promotion that they were doing. But Doncic turned it down because of one good reason. He doesn't play with the Mavericks anymore. So it seemed like the Mavericks, even though they traded Doncic, now they seem like they just can't let the idea go that he's no longer with the team. So they're going to go all out tonight, and it's going to be a tense, raucous environment because, as you know, the fans, they're not very happy still about the trade that took place. You trade a young 25-year-old guy who has all the upside. He doesn't have a whole lot of history of injuries, but they complained about his conditioning, and they were fearing that he would get injured. And then they go trade for a guy like Anthony Davis, who has a history of being hurt. And to cap it all off, the very first game he plays for the Mavericks, he gets hurt in the third quarter. He's out for a couple of weeks. So you go figure that out. So tonight, I'm expecting Doncic to go over 30 points and stick it right into the eye of the Mavericks one last time. And then the Mavericks will finally get the message that he's not coming back. You gave up on the guy, and once you did that, all bets are off. But one thing that people aren't talking about is Doncic. They forget about Anthony Davis. He was a part of that trade too. And if Doncic is going to go off, you know Davis can't be in a situation where he does not produce. So all the pressure is also on Davis to go out there and match whatever Doncic does. He has to show the Maverick faithful that they did, even though you might not like the trade, that you still ended up with somebody that's capable of producing at a higher rate than the guy that you lost. And one way to do that is go out there tonight and outshine Doncic and show the Maverick world that the trade wasn't the terrible thing that you think it was going to be. And nobody's talking about Davis. Everybody's on Doncic. What's Doncic going to do? Yeah, I think Doncic is going to go off tonight. I didn't think he would do it the first time. I was right. I think he's going to go out and blow him up tonight, and I feel like I'm going to be right again. But this time, Davis is going to be on the floor, and he's going to have an opportunity to make a statement for himself. So we'll see how that goes. All right, see what we got here. Usman said if AD plays tonight, he will be out for vengeance. I just saw that, and I just made a comment on that. I think the AD is going to step up to the plate and put on a good performance to show everybody that is going to be more from this guy, from Davis, than what you were expecting. Matthew Orega said, hi, best YouTuber in the world. I appreciate the opinion, even though I don't have that much of a following. But if you would like and subscribe, that would be great. In my opinion, Lakers are not winning the championship this year. Well, you know, I listen to all these guys. They make all the excuses and draw it all up and show you in detail just how the Lakers are going to surprise everybody and make it to the championship. I don't see it. That guy, Chris Canty, he's a Laker fan. So he's talking from a biased standpoint about why the Lakers are going to win the championship. The Lakers may not get out the first round because they may end up getting the Golden State Warriors in that first round. Now, speaking of the Warriors, everybody's talking about how much better they are with the addition of Jimmy Butler. Yes, they have won a lot of games since Butler has been there. But when I look at the stat line, Butler is struggling to get 10 points a game. The Warriors cannot expect Steph Curry to go out and score 40, 50 points to get them through the playoff rounds. And it's going to take for him at least scoring 30-plus points to advance if he's not getting any help from guys like Jimmy Butler. When Curry was out for that 2 weeks or whatever it was, then Butler started to score 17, 18, 22 points a game. Why can't he score more when Curry is in the game? And until he can show me that he can do that with Curry on the floor, I don't see Golden State going anywhere. So that is an opening for the Lakers. They may have a chance to advance if he's going to do that. But I just don't see either one of those teams is doing much. Because what I've noticed about Doncic, I've seen him play with LeBron several times. He seems to me more of a ball hog. And LeBron, he kind of gets his opportunities to score when he gets them, but he's not hitting on all cylinders to me either. So if Doncic is going to ball hog and shoot all the shots, then you can set your defense up to defend him and to kick back to LeBron. Now, one player that I do see that is getting better and better, and that's going to be a factor for the Lakers moving forward, is that guy Austin Reeves. He's going to be an X factor, and if he could continue his uprise through the playoffs, then that will help the Lakers' cause of trying to get to that NBA championship. But I contend that the Oklahoma City Thunder are still the best team in the West. Minnesota, they're dangerous, but that guy Edwards, as good as he is, he's also inconsistent a lot of times. And if he was becoming more consistent, then Minnesota would be more of a threat to come out of the West. So to answer all of the questions about whether the Lakers are going to do it, I don't think the Lakers are going to be there. But at the same time, they stand a good chance because as good as they are in the West, the log jam is there. It's all going to come down to matchups and who show up consistently throughout the playoffs. That's who's going to determine it. But I don't think the Lakers are going to be it. I just think they have too much of a ball hog in Doncic. Jihad says, how you doing, sports journalist? Don't know when you come on. Okay, on a night like this, Jihad, I'm a little off schedule today. I kind of like took the day off in a lot of ways. But normally I come on first thing in the morning from like anytime between 6:30 and 7, I do a little short take. Then I got to do my regular job. And then if I'm not doing games, because I actually do coach, I got a baseball team right now. We got our last regular season game tomorrow. So the only reason I can't do the broadcast during the games is because I don't have but one device and I can't run the device and manage the game at the same time. That's the only reason why I'm not doing live broadcasts of baseball games. But if I did that, it would have to come without me doing any scoring. And that's the only reason why I had to come on during those games. But after the season is over with, then I may just pop on anytime like what I'm doing now. But I think the biggest problem with that is myself, because when I come on, I don't usually give advance warning. So what I'm going to start doing to try to alleviate some of that is to schedule when I'm going to come on, and maybe you can find me then. But hit that bell, and it will tell you when I'm on when you get the notification. That's the only thing I know how to get around that. All right. I don't know what that says. I'm not gay, so find somebody else. But I appreciate you chiming in, though, man. But the other thing I want to talk about is Denver. Since we already talked about how log jammed the West is, Denver has been in some highly competitive games lately. Jokic has been scoring points out of his mind. He's been over 30 for X amount of games in a row now. And he's having to score these points to keep these guys involved. Now, I don't know what seed they're going to end up, but they fired their coach the other day with 3 games left. And to most people, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the reason behind the firing is that the coach, Moses, he wasn't playing the players that the GM wanted him to play. For instance, Russell Westbrook is a seasoned veteran, right? So you would want a guy down the stretch like a Westbrook to come in the game as opposed to younger fellas. But the GM Booth, he wanted the coach to get the younger guys in there so they can develop them. Those are his draft picks. So, of course, you want to have success from your draft picks and get them some playing times, and maybe they can do some good things moving forward. And that's what the GM wanted from the coach. But they've been butting heads evidently for a long time, and it finally came to a head. And I guess the ownership saw, man, we don't have time to deal with this, man. So we're going to get rid of both these cats. And with the frustration boiling over from the players, with Jokic doing what he's doing and still lose the game, and you can't have your star players scoring all those points and still lose. Something had to be done. So I don't know if it's necessarily a good move or not to fire the coach. It certainly doesn't look good, and most people don't like it. But I think this is an example of a GM getting too close to trying to make a decision on the court. If you're going to hire me as a coach, I don't need you interfering with me trying to manage the game. And that's what you had there in Denver. So the organization said we're going to get rid of the coach and we're going to get rid of the GM and start over fresh. Now, I don't know how that's going to affect Jokic. He plays tonight for the first time since all this went down. And I don't know if he's going to not play well in protest or he's going to try to go out and score 60 points. I don't know what's going to take place with that. But I think that the Nuggets' biggest problem is their second supposedly score that they need to move forward is Murray. Murray, he's kind of like he's inconsistent in my opinion. Some days he come out red hot and he carry on and get 20 plus points. But then I've seen him several times during the year where he come out through the first half and only score 1 or 2 points. How the hell can you be the second scorer and you're going to take pressure off Jokic and you can only score 1 or 2 points in the half? I mean, that is not good enough. I mean, you cannot be considered as a top a player to depend on if all you're going to do is 1 or 2 points in the first half. And that doesn't seem to make sense to me. Now, lately, Murray's been hurt. So when Murray comes back to full speed, he takes some pressure off Jokic, but he still needs to score 20 plus points a game to make Jokic that much more effective. And he hasn't shown me that, none this year. So once he gets back, that will help Jokic out a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how Jokic plays tonight. I believe they're playing the Kings, and the Kings, who knows what they might do. They can compete most nights, but then a lot of times they'll fall behind. And I noticed that with these NBA teams with a star player like Jokic, if they get a big enough lead, they'll pull him out of the game. And I don't know if Jokic will want to come out tonight because he might be want to try to make a statement. So the question is this going to become a trend in sports where you fire your coach? I asked that question for a reason. A couple weeks ago, the Grizzlies fired their coach, Taylor, I can't remember his last name. They fired him with about 10 games ago, and that didn't seem to make sense. And I don't have a clear reason as to why they did that. But the question was asked then by some of the sports broadcasters, is this going to start a trend? Well, it may start a trend. And you can see with the Moses firing, it looked like the trend has already started. So who's going to be next is my question. And as far as continuity going to the playoffs, I don't know how that's going to affect the Nuggets. But I think the biggest thing is getting production from Murray and Westbrook on a more consistent basis. That will improve the chance of the Nuggets. Now, another coach that people are talking about, they should fire. And you tell me if it makes as much sense as firing a coach with 3 games left in the season, a playoff team with 3 games left in the season. Fans in South Carolina are calling for Don Staley to retire. Now let's take a look at that. Before Don Staley, South Carolina hadn't won a thing. Now all of a sudden she builds a program. She wins 3 national championships. With the COVID year, that might have been one of her best teams. She could have won the championship that year. So that could have been 4. And she lost to Connecticut the other day, who just happened to be playing basketball like I seen Connecticut play 8-9 years ago. So there's no dishonor to lose to Connecticut, especially if you get blown out. Well, South Carolina got blown out. And the way the broadcasts were, they were looking at Staley, and she was visibly upset with where the game was going and how the calls were. And, you know, basically it's an expression of you really can't do much about it. Whatever move you make, you're in trouble. Because in truth be told, Connecticut was playing the best ball the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season before the tournament. And they kept it going. And with the emergence of AZ Fudd, shit, who's going to beat Connecticut? Nobody. And even with the girl, what's her name? I can't think of her name. She got hurt early in the season with South Carolina, and that derailed them a lot. Even with her, it would have closed the distance some. But the way Connecticut was playing, hitting those 3-point shots, those back cuts, oh, man, they look like a well-oiled machine. And I told you guys a couple of weeks ago when they played that first round game against South Dakota State, how they looked so much different than all the other teams in the tournament. And I referenced West Virginia playing North Carolina on the other channel and how they were shooting air balls and just being sloppy play. You didn't see none of that with Connecticut. They were truly a championship outfit. But the people in South Carolina are upset because they got beat so bad, that they look so bad. It doesn't matter. A lot of times in sports, the best teams play each other in the brackets. The championship game is usually just a coronation for the best team. Once you get through the tough part of the playoffs and you beat the team that's a threat to you, most of the time it don't come in the championship game. When it does, then you have epic battles. But most of the time it's just a showcase for a champion. And that's what happened to South Carolina the other night. They just happened to be the team to be there to take that whipping from South Carolina. I give you the perfect example. That year that Atlanta went to the Super Bowl and they had that 32-point lead on New England, Pittsburgh almost went to the Super Bowl. But as a Steeler myself, I didn't want Pittsburgh in that game because I knew they couldn't play with the Falcons. They were going to get embarrassed in the Super Bowl, just like New England was getting embarrassed. The only reason they didn't do it, the Falcons did what they had been doing over the last couple of years. They get a big lead and start coasting and allow teams to come back. Wasn't a surprise to me that they came back. I didn't think they would win it, but I knew they were going to make it close, which is why the gentleman sitting next to me, his name was Mr. Boyd. I turned right at the beginning of the half. I say, do your kick and onside kick right here. He said, no, play it on out. Hell no, I would have broke the Patriots back right then because I knew they wouldn't have been expecting the onside kick down by 29 points in the second half. That would have killed them right there. But they didn't do it, and they allowed Brady to come back and steal it. And I'm just saying that the best teams, when they playing that top ball, it's hard to stop them. And I would rather another team go to the Super Bowl as a seeing my Steelers get embarrassed in the Super Bowl the way that the Patriots were being embarrassed before they made that epic comeback. I knew that what happened to Pittsburgh. They couldn't stop Atlanta. So I was glad to see the Patriots go to the Super Bowl that year. But still, I think it's unrealistic that you would even consider firing a coach like Staley, especially with all she's done for that program. But I got an idea about what's behind that. And if you ask old Jason Whitlock, he'll probably tell you that it's DEI. Why do I say that? Well, he said the reason that the Duke basketball team was lost the other night against Houston was because of DEI. DEI has nothing to do with sports. He said the black official called the over-the-back call on Cooper Flag because of DEI. I'm only mentioning it because I have to mention it, but it's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. I've been an official before, and only color that you really see during a game is the jersey of this team, the dark jersey, and the white jersey of the other team. That's all you see as an official. You don't have time for all the other crap. Chris Bristol, how you doing, man? Appreciate you chiming in. But that guy, I don't know where he's coming from most of the time. I think he says stuff just to get people talking, but he can't really believe some of the stuff he says. But he's going to say the wrong thing that goes overboard to somebody, and he's going to have a problem he's going to have to deal with on site. And I hope that doesn't happen to him, but it's you can't go out. You just can't do what he's doing. And I just think it's just dumb. But Duke did not lose because of DEI. Duke lost because they went cold during the game, and Houston had the heart to take it from them. And it ended up costing them the game that dry spell that they had. Now, Houston, on the other hand, had Florida beat. Yes, Florida came back, and they made it a game, and it was still there for Houston to win. So I have to feel sorry for that point guard, Sharp. Sharp made two critical errors down the stretch, and I mentioned this the other day. I didn't want to come out and say that the guy choked, and I'm not going to say he choked, but he didn't seem to look the same, that same confident look he had as he got closer to a championship. You could see that the pressure had to be bothering him. It showed up the first time when he dribbled around and dribbled through traffic. The guy got a hand on the ball, ended up hitting him on his knee, and he kicks it out of bounds. Huge turnover right there because Houston had a chance to go up by 3 or 4 at that point. Gators come down and take the lead. Then when the game's on the line, the guy that they wanted to shoot in the corner, they got him covered. They double him, so he kicks it back over to Sharp. Sharp, in position to take the shot with a couple seconds left in the game. He goes up in the air and then doesn't take the shot and comes back down. He has to let the ball go, otherwise it's going to be traveling. He cannot pick up the ball now. Somebody else has to grab it, and that's how the Gator guy was a half a step quicker, realizing what was going on, as opposed to that Houston Cougar that was next to him, and that's enabled the clock to run out. In hindsight, if Sharp hadn't been thinking or reacting the way that he would normally react, what he would have done, he would have pump faked, went up with the shot, maybe drawn a foul, or hit the game-winning three-point shot. But it didn't happen. But it's not the first time I've seen that happen to Houston. I thought this would be the year that the fate actually turned their way. But the fate stuck them in the back just like they did in '83 when they lost to North Carolina State. Same situation. North Carolina State harried. Got to get a shot up. They throw a shot out with a couple seconds left. Nobody's there. But lo and behold, Lorenzo Charles just happened to be there. Landed right in his hand and picked it up like an alley-oop, like they practiced it all year long. And I'd just be damned if they didn't lose on some kind of heartbreak crap like that. And to see it happen with Sharp the other day, man, that's got to be crushing. He's going to remember that the rest of his life, that's for sure. What's Houston going to do? I don't know. With the transfer portal, we may see 4 completely different teams in the Final Four next year that didn't even make the tournament this year because they came up with a good NIL plan and they drafted the right team to work together, and they come together and make it to the Final Four. That's what it's about now. It's not about the best teams. And in a lot of instances, you have the same thing that's taking place down here in high school. Is who puts together the best team. No longer is it I can go down the street and get my quarterback on this block. My wide receiver might be 5 blocks away. Another guy might be a mile or so across town, my tight end. My middle linebacker might be across the street. Those days are gone. Your star players might live 30 miles apart, and they have come together to go to school in one place. That's what high school sports have been reduced to. Same thing that you see in college. Ralph Buller says, hi, can you say my name? Yeah, I just said it, Ralph Bullers. All right, let me check this poll. I say, was it a good move for the Nuggets to fire their coach? Wow. All you guys are saying yes. Interesting. Somebody tell me why you think it was best that the Nuggets fire their coach. I don't know if it was necessarily a good thing. I think it was a good idea to get the discord out of the locker room. I think what you should do is probably fire the GM for trying to coach the team and run it at the same time. You know, there's a difference between front office guys and field guys. And I think that Booth should have stayed in the office where he belonged. You go get the players and let the coach coach. But when you start interfering in what the coach is doing, especially if you take umbrage if the coach try to come up and make moves that you should be making, then, you know, of course, there's going to be a problem. And the Nuggets had to make a move, and they got rid of everybody. So I think that they'll be okay this year. I don't know who's going to be coaching them for the rest of the year. But with Jokic and the way he's playing, if they can get production from Murray and Westbrook amp his production up, and maybe with those young guys that Booth wanted to see play, maybe they would make a difference. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But especially, I want to see how they play tonight, because this is the first game that they're going to play since all that went down. So I know everybody's here saying that, you know, it was a good move, but all the NBA greats and NBA executives, they're scratching their heads now. But it lets you know that if you can fire a coach that won a championship, you can fire a coach in Memphis that's got his team in the playoffs. You fire him 10 days before, 10 games left on your schedule. And people are questioning Don Staley, all the success she had in South Carolina when they didn't have any before that. No coach, they never really had solid footing. But, you know, I guess when you think about Jimmy Johnson, when he had won those 2 Super Bowls, and for Jerry Johnson to find a way to get Jerry Jones to find a way to get rid of him, I guess nobody's safe. So unless it's your team, everybody's expendable. And that's the way the Mavericks felt when they got rid of Doncic. Now they kind of regret it a little bit. Now they want to kiss up to him tonight. But I don't think Doncic want to hear none of that. He's trying to score 100 tonight. I think he'll get 30. But if he can score more than 100, he's going to do it. So it'll be interesting to see just how this game goes. And I'm going to go in there and watch a little bit of it just to see how the environment is, because I like stuff like that. But the playoffs, better yet, the NBA season ends Sunday, and there's a log jam and jockeying for positions in the West. And when these 7 through 10 tournament that they have to determine the final 2 seeds, that begins, I believe, Tuesday. That's going to be exciting as well. So it's going to be nice to see how things play out. SJB, how you doing, man? I got some more votes here. I finally got a no vote on should the Nuggets have fired their coach. And I kind of agree that, you know, you probably should have let him just finish the season out at least. But they lost like 4 games in a row, and they're not in danger of missing the playoffs. It's all about positioning in the playoffs. It doesn't matter who you play. It's going to be a pretty even matchup when you get there. And all this discord that's going on in the West make Laker fans and make them get all excited about the possibility of the Lakers going back to the finals. You know, everybody wants to see the Lakers and the Celtics play for whatever reason. I understand the East Coast, West Coast thing. I understand the history of the two franchises, and they got all the championships in the league. But if this was a two-team league, then what's the point of having the playoffs and everything else? If they earn their way to the championship, then great. They deserve to be there. But I'm not penciling them in because I'm a Laker fan, and I'm not, and I want to see them in the finals. It's not all about that. They got to play their way to get there. And I don't think that the Lakers, they don't have the roster to get there. Now, Austin Reeves, he's coming on. He's scoring about 19, 20 a game now, sometimes well over that. If he can continue to do that, especially when LeBron, he's struggling to get 20 points a night, it can make it interesting in the West. But I think until somebody stops or slows down Gilgeous, I don't see anybody beating Oklahoma City, especially with the way Hartenstein is playing. Hartenstein is getting better. And if he scored 10, 15 points a game, I don't think he scores 15, but if he scored 10 points a game, he keep getting 12, 13, 14 rebounds a game, who's going to beat them? Jalen Williams is another wild card in that situation. If he can pump in 15 plus, take pressure off Gilgeous, and they playing good defense. So I don't see very many teams getting by Oklahoma City. All of them have the issues. Golden State is always a threat because of Curry, but as great as Jimmy Butler is supposed to be for the Warriors, I don't see it, especially on the offensive end. Where his value lies, you have to show me. But if Curry has to score 35 plus points for the Warriors to advance, it's not going to happen. Jimmy Butler is going to have to step up, start scoring 15 to 20 a game, along with Curry, and spreading that ball around. Then the Warriors become that threat. So I think that in a 7-game series, I don't see anybody beating Oklahoma City. Minnesota is dangerous. Denver is dangerous. And it's right now, to me, whoever's going to get hot. And I just don't think the Lakers are going to be that team to do it. But I've been proved wrong before. I had only lost 9 games going into the Final Four, and ended up losing all 3 of those. So, but I take 51-12. Wasn't a bad tournament for me, but should be interested moving forward. But yeah, I just want to talk about Doncic a little bit and what the night's going to be like in Dallas. It should be very interesting. So I'm going to go in and watch a little bit of that. In the meantime, if you guys are up at the crack of dawn with me, I'll be on sometime around 6:30 in the morning talking about a recap of what took place tonight. So until the morning, unless breaking news come up, I'll catch you guys then. So until then, have a great night. Appreciate you chiming in with me. Subscribe, like, all of that. That'd be great. Have a good night. I'm out. SJB.